Many things that come to pass. God is going to put a judgment on the world. He's mad. I'm sorry it's going to happen. He's not going to destroy the whole world. But every living thing will perish, and it'll be maybe another 1,000,000 years before a new life begins again. Grandmother Earth will be alone. She's going to rest. All because of white man's wickedness. You're going to fall and fall hard. You're going to be crying and wailing. You'll realize you can't get away with destroying God's world. Don't think you can get away with it. God's going to wipe the wickedness from the earth. You can see his signs out on the west coast, Mount St. Helens volcano. That's a sign. And there's going to be earthquakes. Maybe half of California and half of Washington and Oregon will go into the water. The same in the east and in the south. You're going to have volcanoes and earthquakes and hurricanes.
Matthew stood before us, waving his arms like two great eagle wings, tossing up tempests below.
It's God giving signs to the white man, punishing him for not paying his debt to the Indian people, for destroying the land with his greed. It will get worse until you pay us what you owe us, what you promised us, until you give us what is ours. You're going to learn the most important lesson, that God is the most powerful thing there is. We Indians aren't afraid to die. We've got a place to go, a better place, so we don't care. We're ready. We just want you to know. Maybe you can change. Maybe you can stop what's coming. There's not much time. It's going to happen. Take it from me. Tell them Noble Red Man said so.
Matthew smiles again, and suddenly light seems to fill the room. The brimstone settles. He laughs.
Don't worry. You guys still got time to do what you're doing. God's making use of you. He's sending you out to reveal the life of the Indian people. That's a good thing. You should be grateful. He's found a use for you.
He seems pleased when we ask for his blessing.
Put your camera on that chair, and you put your pen beside it. I'll put a blessing on them so you don't do any harm with them to the Indian people.
For several minutes, holding his hands over the camera and pen, he prays in the Lakota language. At one point he stops speaking and holds his head up as if listening. Standing there beside him as he prays, we can feel the Spirit flowing through us like a wind.
I told God what you're doing. He tells me you're going to have a good journey. No harm will come to the Indian people from what you're doing, and no harm will come to you while you're doing it. I asked him to bless these two men and take care of them.
Since our conversations in 1983, Matthew King, Chief Noble Red Man, has gone on to his Creator. His passing brings to mind these words he spoke to us back then.
You know, last night I had a dream of my wife for the first time since she passed away 4 years ago. She came to me last night and she told me it's very peaceful up there. It's the best place, far from the wicked world. We lead a good life up here, she said. She wanted me to hurry up and come on up there. So I told her, wait a minute. I got a lot of things to do yet in the world. You better wait a little longer, then I'll be there.
Corbett Sundown, Seneca. I was looking forward to seeing Chief Corbett Sundown again as we drove up to the Tonawanda Indian Reservation in upstate New York, an hour's drive from Buffalo. 3 years had passed since our last visit in 1986. At that time he'd been recuperating from 3 heart attacks over the previous year and a half. Yet he'd seemed not only alert but feisty and energetic as ever. Here was a man intimately in tune with the Creator, a man who had devoted most of his 80 years to helping his people without thought of recompense. It was simply his duty, and nothing could come in the way of that. Though the heart attacks had forced him to give up his official role as spokesman for the spiritual fire of the traditional Six Nations Iroquois, he had continued to function as a leader in longhouse ceremonies and as a font of wisdom, both practical and spiritual, for those who came to his door. As Harvey and I drove up to his house at Tonawanda, we saw someone sitting in a parked car in the front driveway. It was Corbett. We walked over to shake his hand, which he extended uncertainly. It was trembling slightly. He didn't remember us at first, but gradually a smile of recognition, weak but genuine, spread across his face. Yet his voice could hardly be heard, a halting whisper, scratchy as an antique phonograph record. We could barely make out the words.
I like to sit out here in the car. Can't walk much anymore. Can't do nothing anymore. Can't.
The words just faded out. His eyes drifted away from us, absorbed in some inner vision. After a minute or so, he regathered enough strength to go on.
I sit out here and I watch things that move. Yesterday I saw 14 dogs in the morning. No one else saw them. I think I know who they are.
Who are they? I asked. He didn't answer. His eyes closed. We thought he might have fallen asleep, but he was only looking deep inside himself, trying to find the words, trying to get them out from his mind to his tongue. He didn't mention the dogs again.
Things come into me. The falling leaves, the stars. I watch them move. They come into me.
Once again he lapsed into seeming sleep for a couple of minutes. Then he opened his eyes again.
I'm 80 years old now. I've been a chief for 50 years.
The words trailed off. We helped him out of the car and into the house, where two lovely ladies, Edna Parker, 85, and Betsy Carpenter, 96, tend to his care. He sat down at the cluttered kitchen table where we'd had so many wonderful conversations in the past. But there would be no conversation this day. Every so often his eyes brightened as if with some thought, and his lips would begin to move, but only a hoarse sigh came out. I realized that whatever Corbett had to say to us had already been said. There would be no more. He began slowly to clench and unclench his hands, holding them out in front of him and squinting at them as if they were miles away.
Can't feel my hands.
Something came into me, a sudden impulse. I walked over to him and took his two hands in mine. They were cool, dry, like cracked leather. They felt barely alive. Like a mother rubbing her child's frozen hands, I pressed and squeezed and rubbed them gently, praying that some of the life and warmth might flow from my hands into his. These are powerful hands, Corbett, I told him. These are hands that have led their people well. Corbett's eyes welled with tears. I could not restrain my own. His lips moved silently, trying to deliver the words so far back in his mind. Only a sound like faint static came out. Corbett, I asked, may I photograph your hands? With Edna's and Betsy's help, we took him back out of doors into the light. He sat in a lawn chair. For 10 minutes, focusing through my tears, I photographed those magnificent hands. Somehow they had ceased trembling. Their strength, no, call it power, is something I will never forget. When I'd finished, I took them once more in mine. Corbett sat there looking up at me. His tears had dried, and his quiet smile said everything words could not. Words? We had come for the gift of his words. There was so much we wanted to hear, so much he could tell us. But words were something irrelevant now. A deeper communication was taking place. He had given us the blessing of his presence, and no greater gift can be imagined. Harriet Starleaf Gums, Shinnecock. Tucked away just west of the posh Hamptons, the Shinnecock Indian Reservation, hardly noticeable from the road, occupies one of the last pieces of unspoiled shoreside real estate on eastern Long Island. Only the quick-glancing tourist sees the hand-lettered sign on a one-story wooden building, Shinnecock Indian Outpost and Starleaf's Antique Bottle Shop. Starleaf is the Indian name of Harriet Gums, a youngish elder of her people, a tribal spokeswoman, teacher, and historian.
We were here for thousands and thousands of years before the first white settlers arrived in 1640.
She tells us as we stroll the rock and shell-strewn shore of Shinnecock Bay on a chilly, somberly beautiful early December afternoon. From this same shore came the purple-shelled clam called the quahog, from which the Indians of the Northeast once made the purple beads for their sacred wampum.
Our ancestors called this place Siwanhaki, or Shell Heaven. Back then, the land was ours for miles around. Now we have only these 400 acres. They've taken all the rest. Some developers recently offered us millions to relocate, but we refused. This land is ours forever, and we're not leaving.
She retells a story told to her by great-grandmother Elizabeth Adams, who lived to be over 100 years old.
A beautiful dove flew over the earth and dropped a bit of blood from its wounded wing onto Mother Nature's warm breast. Many Indians believed this might be so, for the trees sang softly and their branches swayed gracefully up and down in the gentle winds, fanning the spot where the blood had landed. A bit of sunshine, a drop of rain, a puff of life from the Great Spirit as he gently breathed upon that spot, created the Native Americans. They were well-formed and agile, copper-colored and proud. Today, we need a revolution to survive. So much has been taken and so much has been lost. We hardly know our own language or culture anymore. That was taken from us along with the land and, yes, even the sea and the streams. When I was a girl, the water was so clean and clear we bathed and washed our clothes in it. Now there's so much pollution, no one wants to set foot in it. What a difference between white man's way and the Indian way. We lived here since time began, and the only waste we left behind was the oyster shell middens on the shore. But what will future archaeologists find when they unearth today's civilization? Generations to come will look back and see how 20th century Americans were the garbage makers, the poison producers, the carcinogen creators. In exchange for all he's taken from us, all white man gives us back is welfare, and even for that little bit he forces our men to leave their homes so their children can get food to eat. That's rape. Raping someone's way of life, raping someone's culture and heritage, raping the land and raping the sea. What kind of legacy is that? We reject it. We want no part of it.
Starleaf arranges a traditional feast on the beach, supervised by her son, Phil Brown, a professional chef. 2 days are spent gathering and preparing the victuals, a veritable cornucopia of fresh-caught foods from the bay and its shore, steamed clams and crabs, oysters raw and grilled, baked mussels, stuffed scallops, thick clam chowder, exquisite deep-baked bluefish, plus tidbits of rabbit, squirrel, duck, and venison. For appetizers, we dig fresh clams from the wet sand, pry them open, and simply pop them into our mouths.
You don't need lemon or hot sauce. They're perfect the way they are, the way the Creator made them. There used to be so many clams on the beach, you only had to kick the sand to find them. You could dig them up with your toes. Now they're scarce. Commercial clammers rake the shore right up to the tide line. When I was a girl, the sand was pearly white. Now it's covered with that green algae from pollution, they say. The pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers run down from the potato fields. Still, isn't it beautiful? This is where the Creator intended us to live.
After hours